2022 Ohio County Board of Adjustments order.
United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation.
Roll call, please.
Lori Burton.
Here.
Tom Price.
Here.
Bruce Hubbard.
Here.
And Richard Letman.
Present.
We have a quorum. And just to remind you that if you push the button, that will turn your microphone on. There's a little green light that'll light up.
Oh, okay. Okay, ask for nomination for election of chair, please.
I'd like to nominate Thomas Price to become chair.
Second for the chair. Second on the motion.
A second.
Any discussion?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Ask for nomination for election of vice chair.
I nominate Lori Burton.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
So elected. Thank you. And I guess at this point we adjourn to executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorney. Is that correct?
First, you'll have to vote to go into executive session.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion that we go into executive session for a short period of time. Do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Should we give them some idea of how much time we're going to be in executive session? Just
10, 15 minutes.
okay.
Discussion. Bylaws. Started. Entertain a motion that we
I second.
Forget to turn on the mic, sorry. All right, item 7 is requests for variance to section 35, setbacks and area requirements of the Mohammed County zoning ordinance per section 41 to allow for an opportunity or to allow for an approximately 5-foot rear yard setback to allow for a carport on Assessor's parcel number 402-59029J in the Beaver Dam vicinity, west of Desert Wind Drive and south of Cimarron Drive, Mojave County, Arizona. And I guess we next start with the staff report from Matthew Gunderson. Is that correct?
Good morning, Chairman, board members. The applicant requests this variance to allow for an approximately 5-foot rear yard setback along the northern property line. The applicant has identified drainage concerns and the limitations of lot size of the subject property as reasons to require the reduction in setback requirements. The subject property's lot size is smaller than the majority of other lots in the area due to the dedicated right-of-way along the southern portion of the property as well as the eastern property. And the lots along Desert Wind Drive are approximately 12 feet smaller in width than other lots in the vicinity. The subject property is a corner lot and has 2 roadway frontages. The southern property line was designated as the front yard setback for setback requirements when the home was permitted. However, the home is situated facing Desert Wind Drive and has a Desert Wind address, which typically becomes the front of a property. If the house were smaller and the Desert Wind side of the property was identified as the front of the lot, a 5-foot setback would have been the standard setback for that north property line. But because it's the rear, it's, according to the zoning ordinance, is a 15-foot setback. Staff has determined that the smaller lot size in comparison to other lots in the area to be a special circumstance or condition applying to this property that does not prevail on other properties in the area. It does appear that the strict application of the regulations would result in a hardship for this property owner, and that the granting of the application allows for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial existing property rights. The granting of the application will not materially affect the health or safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood, or that that it does not appear that the granting of the application would be materially detrimental to the public welfare or interest of property or improvements in the neighborhood, and that the substantial conformity to standards previously established in the zone will still be secured. It does not appear that detriment or injury to the neighborhood will result from the granting of this variance as applied for. The department has determined that the requested variance does comply with Section 41F of the Mojave County Zoning Ordinance and recommends approval of this request with the following conditions. 1, that the variance would allow for a 5-foot setback from the north property line. 2, that the applicant shall comply with all other applicable provisions of the Mojave County Zoning Ordinance. And 3, that the appropriate permits and licenses will be obtained prior to construction.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak?
I would like to thank
Come forward to the mic, that way we have a better record of the proceedings.
Yes, I began this process, just an FYI, a couple of years ago, and there's been some misinformation back and forth, but...
Just a second. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Alan Phipps.
Okay.
And I own the property. I just acquired it 2 years ago, and at that point I realized I would like a carport in that spot and started the process. And it's a long story short, is that we wound up here because the setback I felt was 5 feet, and the people that I contracted the carport with 2 years ago felt it was 5 feet, but because of the side and the backyard mix up that Matt had kind of explained here, it was denied, and so I'm in it so far into the process, and it got denied, and now that's why I'm here requesting a setback, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate Matthew's time here, and I don't know what else to say other than I appreciate your consideration. It's something that would be very, if there's a good reason that I shouldn't have it, I would understand. But if there's not, then I'd appreciate being able to get it very much.
Okay, thank you. Any members have questions? Go ahead. Oh,
Mr. Gunderson, are we aware of any objections from the neighboring property owners?
Chairman, Mr. Letman, no, the staff has not received any objection to this request.
Thank you.
Mr. Letman, I did bring with me consent forms from all my immediate neighbors, if you'd like to see them.
I'm satisfied.
Thank you, I read those. That's going to be a freestanding,
Yes, sir.
so it's going to have foundation or anchors and everything.
Yes, the concrete is the required, I think it was the thickness 6 inches or whatever it was required. It does meet that standard, and it's going to be anchored to it, yes.
Okay. You have a contractor already signed up,
Yes.
and he's willing to put one there and not have to worry about setbacks?
Pardon me?
He's not going to have to worry about setbacks or anything? Everything's been taken care of as far as survey goes?
That's why I was getting the permit before I did it. I just wanted to do it by the book.
Okay.
I understand a lot of because I walk the neighborhood for my exercise, and originally when I set this up, or when I contracted it, the first company, and they found out the setback was 15 feet, and they gave me my refund back that I'd made for the carport, and then during my process of exercising in the neighborhood, I noticed many others that had carports that were within that amount or less, and so it's all new process for me. I was told, well, why don't you get a variance? And so that's when I called in the county to get a variance, and she says, you don't need a variance, it's only 5 feet. And I says, okay, great. And I went ahead and contracted another company, because the first one wouldn't do it because they sent their person in to get the permit. And the second company, and then I got into the process with you folks, getting the engineered drawings and all the other requirements, found in the thickness of the concrete, and then was told, oops, we made a mistake. It needs to be 15 feet, not 5 feet. And therefore, I requested this variance.
That's a good idea to do everything you did.
Pardon me?
It's a good thing you did whatever you had to do, and I read that the adjacent neighbors don't have any problem with it, right?
Great people.
Okay.
The one that it's next to said, well, you can put it up as far as you want, even over my part of my yard, because that's where he keeps his RV, but
Yeah, okay.
he was
Thank you.
joking, of course.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions for you. Are you putting up a standard carport or an RV carport?
Pardon me?
Are you putting just a standard carport up or an RV carport?
It's specifically for an RV, so that I can have that my home is smaller, so that I can put my motorhome under there and have company that when I have overflow visitors.
And how long do those visitors usually stay?
Pardon me?
How long do those visitors usually stay with you? Do your visitors,
I'm hard of hearing.
and that's fine. How long do your visitors usually stay? A week, 2 weeks, longer?
I hope they stay longer, my grandkids and so forth, but you're probably right, a week or 2 weeks. I don't think they can be out away from their work or, my family visitors.
Is there a possibility anybody would be there 30 days or more?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Okay. Are there any others wishing to speak on the item?
Pardon me?
Are there any other people wanting to speak on the item? Not you, but we appreciate you. Thank you very much. But I was just wondering if there's anyone else here on your item. Okay, seeing none. All right. Any further discussion?
Ready for a motion?
Yeah, ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, based upon the testimony of the applicant and the findings by staff regarding Harvey County Zoning Ordinance 41F, I would go ahead and move that the applicant, Alan Phipps, be granted a variance to said regulation.
I second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those indicate in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is item 8, request for variance to section 35B, setbacks and area requirements of the Mohammed County zoning ordinance per section 41, to allow for an approximately 4-foot front yard setback for a garage on Assessor's parcel number 204-36017 in the Wallapai Mountain vicinity, west of Wallapai Mountain Road on Crum Road, Mojave County, Arizona. Mr. Gunderson, a staff report, please.
The applicant requests this variance to allow for a front yard setback of approximately 4 feet, where 15 feet is required, to allow for a 36.7 foot by 22.5 foot garage on an existing concrete slab that has a retaining wall. The applicant indicates that the extreme terrain and removal of the existing concrete slab and retaining wall are hardships for the property owner. The applicant indicates that the garage will not pose an impediment to the traffic and that the allowance of the variance preserves the existing lot uses, conserves the hillside environment, and adds value to the lot and the surrounding areas. The applicant previously applied for a variance from the required front yard setback in 2019 to allow for the garage in the same location. That request was denied by the Board of Adjustment. The subject's property's lot size and shape is slightly larger than other properties in the vicinity. The property's steep terrain is similar to surrounding properties in the area. Staff believes that the applicant could construct a similar-sized garage on the south or north side of the property that still meets the setback requirements and does not require a variance. Grading the steep terrain in order to build the garage is a hardship that is generally shared by adjacent property owners, and granting the variance would allow the applicant additional privileges that are not enjoyed by the surrounding property owners. The existing concrete slab and retaining wall are currently in the front setback are not in violation and would not need to be removed if the variance is not granted. The department could not identify special circumstances or conditions applying to this property that does not prevail on other properties in the same zone. The department could not confirm that the strict application of the regulations would result in an unnecessary hardship and that the granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial existing property rights. The granting of the application will not materially affect health or safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood and will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or interest of property or improvements in the neighborhood. Substantial conformity to standards set forth in Section 41F of the Mojave County Zoning Ordinance will not be secured, and that detriment or injury to the neighborhood will not result from the granting of a variance as applied for. Staff has received 2 letters of support and 2 letters of opposition for this item. Because the department believes that the requested variance does not comply with Section 41F of the Mojave County Zoning Ordinance, the department recommends denial of this request.
Okay, open public hearing. Is the applicant present? Okay, go ahead and you wish to speak, I presume.
Identify ourselves.
Okay. And Kathy, go ahead and identify yourself for the record, please.
Good morning. Welcome. My name is Kathy Tackett Hicks. I'm acting as the owner's agent in this, and that staff report didn't sound very encouraging, but I think there's a lot more to the story, and I don't totally agree with the staff interpretation. This request was in fact, and I have tremendous respect for these gentlemen, so we work together often. this did come before the Board of Adjustment 2.5 years ago. It was denied. But it was not denied because of anything in particular, except that it was brought up that it might be a safety issue. So what the owner did at that time was go out and get an engineer's report, which you should have a copy of that, where he's gone through several items, and I'll go over that in a minute. But to me, that's a very different situation, just saying it was denied. But it was denied for a purpose which we now believe we've corrected or addressed for you to consider. This driveway is not an encroachment in the right-of-way. This is an encroachment into the setback. And this area of the county has the most bizarre right-of-way road system that I've seen and I've done numerous plats. And I think it's wonderful because the entire sentiment of that area is to develop around the environment, to get a traveled way areas that don't impact the environment, to protect the resources and still enjoy the properties. When I made the statement that having the ability to utilize this as a garage, I did believe that it's so that he could match other enjoyment, just like the other property owners have done. There are numerous encroachments along Crum. In fact, in the engineer's report, he indicates encroachments into the designated right-of-way consist primarily of portions of residential structures. Several houses encroach into the right-of-way or are within 3 feet of the right-of-way along South Crum right now. This is not unusual. This is not an unusual request, with a few notable being lots 19, 32, 13, and 42. In fact, lot 42, which is right across the street from this, encroaches 7.5 feet into the right-of-way. So this is not unusual. This concrete structure, may I please have more time?
I don't think we have time restrictions on these sorts of things, so
Okay,
no,
good.
go ahead.
So this development is not built strictly to code compliance in terms of utilizing and having the roadway in the center of right-of-ways. It just never has been. And because of that, there are multiple instances which are routinely accepted. And in fact, I do believe that there was I should have checked it out, but I believe there was a variance request just a few lots to the north of this that was approved about 3 years ago for an encroachment in the right-of-way, or encroachment in the setback as well. What we're requesting is not unusual. So the issue is really the traveled way. Where is the road? And then how you, your context in regard to that traveled roadway, which is all over the place. In fact, South Crum Road, we had the surveyor go out and review that. The first 450 feet of South Crum Road is not even within the right-of-way when it comes off the paved area. I mean, it's just a unique area. So the idea that just encroaching in the setback is unusual. It is not unusual at all. Staff had indicated in their report that they felt that that this particular property owner could build another garage either on the north or the south. On that upper area on the south side, that's the existing septic system, and you cannot build anything on a septic system, nor should you be driving your vehicles on it. To the north, if you look at the maps on that area right there, again, working with the adjacent property owner, that adjacent property owner uses Mr. McGee's property to gain access so he doesn't have to do any extra grading on the other side of his lot. So although he may be able to build a new structure right there, move it over a little bit, I do believe that could happen. What happens then is the next property owner has to grade another area, and you still have the conflict with the sentiment in the area, which is don't be grading and doing things if you don't have to. We try to protect. So he is trying to work with both. What worked out nice with this property is this is already existing. We have an engineer's report that says there are no safety issues. And after the last meeting, that was critical because clearly if there was a safety issue, then it's a problem. But there isn't any, or there does not appear to be. And he went through everything, the slopes, the distances, site distances. This is not an encroachment into the right-of-way. There are numerous instances. I would really ask you to consider this variance and please approve it because I do believe that it meets the intent of the variance opportunity. I'm happy to answer any questions. The owners, I will tell you, I'm sorry, the owners are actually out of the country. It was a trip planned a long time ago. They desperately wanted to be here. So I'm hoping we can do something with this.
Any questions from the commissioners?
What type of garage are you going to put on top of this, and how do I know that the foundation's any good?
Yeah, good question. So we had an engineer go out, they dug up the foundations probably 3 years ago, did some tests, which confirms, it was a structural engineer, confirms that that concrete is suitable for this purpose. So the shed is going to go right on the concrete, right on the retaining walls, right there at the top of the building. So it's just going to be exactly on that.
The back wall, that's a retaining wall?
Yes.
What's the foundation for that?
I don't know, but I do have structural calcs and everything. It has been reviewed.
Foundation's supposed to be half the height.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know the
Underneath the
precise,
slab?
but I know we have structural calculations, and I've got them in here if that's something you'd like to look at. The structural engineer was Dave Marsh on that, I believe.
Do they have any filter fabric or anything around this thing?
Is there any filter fabric?
Yeah.
Not on
for
the
drainage?
surface.
What kind of approach are you going to have on there? You don't have much of an approach. If you have an approach slab on there, it's going to go into the street.
Yeah, I don't think there's, I'll go pull the structural and see if there is anything. There might be a lip, maybe depending on where that concrete slab sits, if there needs to be, if it's greater than 4 inches, he might have a little.
Because any sheet flow
deal.
is going to cut it down in front. You're going to have a big hole there.
What is going to?
Any sheet flow that comes off of the roof.
Right, so the roof drainage does not go in the front of that lot. It goes in the back, and I think it's a roof like this that'll be picked up in the back. But I do have those plans in the car, as a matter of
All
fact.
the water is going to go to the back?
Okay, if you want to know exactly, I will go get the
No,
plans.
I don't know exactly. I just thought you might have an idea on what they've already planned.
I do have an idea, and I've had a few different things. So I do know this, that whatever roof drainage has to be accommodated, and it's not going to be draining in front of the garage door. So,
Do they have any objection to building another garage on the site that is okayed, legal?
they do have objections to that, because it defies the purpose of being out there, which is not to build if you don't have to. They already have to protect the resources. They are able to build something on the north side. I believe that there's room there, but that impacts their neighbor, so there's, you have 2 construction jobs then. One for the building, just to move this over the 6 feet.
But it gives them everything that they like. Is any neighbors, what, you said there was 2 neighbors that object to it?
2 supported, 2 objected. It doesn't give them everything that they want. They want to use what they have that's already been used as a parking place for a long time, and now has been supported by a review which indicates it's not a safety issue.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go, ladies first.
Thank you. Is this the same exact spot where the original garage was?
I have no idea. I know that this is not a permitted thing. I did see in there, someone said years ago there was a parking place up top. I mean, I have no
I
idea.
saw something in there. When it was built, there was a garage there, but it's been removed. But I didn't know if it was the exact spot.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Lettman.
So I had a question. I understand you're not the owner, but you're representing them. So the ordinance, section 41F, says this board cannot approve the variance unless the strict application of the regulations would result in an unnecessary hardship, and that the granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial existing property rights. Could you tell us what that hardship would be?
Well, the hardship is that he would have to not be able to utilize an existing facility that already works. So that would be an extra burden dollar-wise. He can move it over. I mean, if there's room to the north, he can move it over, but that adversely affects his neighbor. So there's going to be additional construction there. The reason that we came before for a variance is that this is a reasonable use in this area. So this is not an unusual request. There are numerous variances, and if there are no safety issues, then that's why it was being presented.
Okay, so I guess my point is I'm not sure that I'm not sure this would interfere by denying this with the existing enjoyment of the property he has right now, or they have right now.
Well, if he has to build another driveway or another garage somewhere else, then that existing facility probably doesn't fit, so he has to tear that down, or a portion of it. There's not much room on that north side.
At some point, can we get staff comment on that remark?
Chairman, Board Member Levin, what's the question?
You made a point that it might require the demolition.
I think what you're talking about is they said through the variance, and I made an error originally because I thought it had to be removed out of the setback, that structure. Staff indicated it doesn't if it stays as it is. My response to you was if they have to build a drive or a garage out there on that north side, they wouldn't, a portion of that, there's not enough room to build that and still have a driveway, so they'd have to take out part of that existing retaining area.
Okay, but my point would be that they're enjoying the property the way it is today without a garage, correct?
Yeah, but they can't protect any of their items or anything in the winter.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If the board is unable to consider this approval now, I don't know if it's better to have the owners come in. Mr. Hubbard had a few questions on the roof drainage. I mean, they preferred to be here but could not because a plan said a year ago. I don't know if we should move it forward. It sounds like you're still concerned.
I don't know what the procedure is. Deputy County Attorney, could you help us with that issue?
Again, thank you, Chairman Price and members of the board. The options here are essentially to approve the variance, deny the variance, and alternatively, and I don't know if this is what Ms. Taggett Hicks is requesting, but alternatively, the board could vote to continue it to another meeting.
Okay, understood.
That is what I was suggesting.
Okay. Is there any desire from the commissioners?
I would like to make a motion for an executive meeting
Okay.
to discuss this right away.
Is that appropriate for the executive session, Deputy County?
She's made the motion. We can go into executive session. I don't know that if there's a legal question, we can go and talk about the legal question. In order for us to do that, someone would have to second the motion and the board would have to vote to go into executive session.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure if this is legal or not.
Well, okay. Just a second. Let's deal with the immediate. We'll have a time for you to address the commission in a moment, or after executive session, if we decide to go into executive session. What's the gist of your issue? Maybe let's put it that way.
I'm looking at the variance request in the report where it says, it talks about the right-of-way, that when the whole thing started, the right-of-ways were screwed up to begin with, but that doesn't make it right to do it again. But it does say in here, now I got to find them, where it said it's not in the right-of-way. I had it till I looked at you. It says in fact, the first 450 feet of South Crum after leaving the pavement is out of the designated right-of-way on private property. And it says in here that okay. But it does say in one that it's not in the right-of-way, and then in another one it says it does encroach the right-of-way. So that was my concern.
think in regards to the current existing structure, does not violate the right-of-way. Is that staff's understanding?
Mr. Chair, Board Member Burton, it does not, it would not encroach on the right-of-way. The variance request is for 4 feet from the public right-of-way. So it would not encroach on any right-of-way.
Just an encroachment in the front setback.
It's an encroachment on the front setback. The setback is 15 feet, and they're looking to make that 15 feet go down to 4 feet.
So it's 4 feet from it. It does not encroach into the right-of-way.
That is correct.
Okay, the neighbor across the street encroaches 7.5 feet into the right-of-way.
Looking on aerials, it does appear that way, yes.
Okay. All right, that answers my question.
So you withdraw your motion to
Yes,
go into executive
I'll
session?
withdraw the motion.
Okay, so we will not go into executive session. Okay, we have a further issue, whether to continue the matter. Is there any interest from any of the commissioners to move to continue the matter for a future hearing?
Do we want to let her ask her question?
You can ask Mrs. Tackett Hicks questions if you wish.
The lady in the back that wanted to.
Oh, we'll get to her in just a moment.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to hear her before we had more discussions.
Oh, okay. Any other questions for Ms. Tackett Hicks?
Thank you. I'll just clarify, so the setback at one corner is just over 4 feet, and then it's like 7.5 or 8 feet on the other because it goes around the corner. So I just wanted to, it wasn't 4 foot across the front.
Okay, hold on, we do have an additional question for you.
Okay.
Quick question, how long have the owners owned this property?
I think around 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
So they started it, so it was existing on the side.
Thank you. Ma'am, you want to come forward and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Kennard. I live up the hill from the request for this variance, up the dirt road, I might say. My objections primarily are that it is a one-lane road. This is not a road where you can swerve out and miss somebody backing out of that garage. I have a question about the size of the garage. Did they say 5 feet by 35 feet? Is this just for,
Let's have staff respond to that.
pardon me?
Let's have staff respond to that.
Okay.
The proposed garage is 36.7 feet by 22.5 feet.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. We have a water drainage problem on that road. So before you approve or deny, I would request very seriously that they have a plan for their water drainage. A lot of our homeowners' monies are spent on fixing the roads after monsoon or a heavy snow. So there's already a culvert that we have to put a barrier on with sandbags across the street and at this man's corner of his property. So, and we already have damage because we've had a fair amount of rain up there as compared to here in Kingman. Backing out blind, I hadn't realized it was going to be 22 feet, will put you right into, backing out into the middle of the road. And there's an intersection on that road, maybe half of his garage, not half, a quarter of his garage would be on that intersection of where Crumroud turns east, I believe, and the road going up the hill turns into Wabayuma. So Wabba must be taken, I feel, should be taken into consideration. So the safety issue is the in and out. People love their toys up there. You know, every kind of road thing they can put an engine on, people have. So that is, to me, an environmental problem. I've lived up there almost 20 years. But we knew where we were moving. We knew what we were getting, and we accepted that. We sought that out. We don't have a garage. We just have an extended driveway. So, and having come from Vermont, you don't need a garage for everything. You put something over it, and it's safe. My main thing is the objection of the safety, and coming down Wabba in the winter, if we have snow and ice, and because we're shaded, we keep ice for a long time, it's like going down a luge. And I pray every time I go down that in the winter that I don't run off the road. We have very deep culverts on either side of the road, making it less and less wide, sometimes almost every year. So I think that those are my objections. I understand people want to protect all their, as I call them, toys. But I see it as a safety feature, and if he had something that big on that property, I would be afraid of running into it, coming down Wabba and entering into Crum. So those are my concerns. I don't know if the fire chief has responded in terms of the size of vehicles he needs to get up there in case of fire. We have very large fire trucks that come up, so I haven't raised that concern because I don't know enough about it. I just know that I live on the road and I perceive his egress onto Crum as dangerous. Thank you very much.
Hold on a second. I think, Ms. Kennard, we have some questions from the commissioners.
Okay.
Commissioner Burton first, and then Commissioner Hubbard.
What is the normal speed people travel on that road? Is it marked?
Well, let's say with all the ruts, you can't go very fast.
Okay.
It's kind of, 5 or 10 miles an hour, but it's rutted terribly.
Okay, my point is that you're going slow enough if somebody started to back out, they could see you, you could see them.
One would hope. Kids on ATVs and, side-by-sides usually go a lot faster. They're kids. They want to drive fast.
Yes, we all know what kids do. You talked about the drainage. Where does the drainage go now? Because there is a retaining wall there. There is.
The retaining wall only diverts it onto either side.
And that retaining wall is not going anywhere, so that was my point. Is it going to change from what it is now? Or?
No.
Okay.
Unless they haven't put a pipe in and do all the trench drain or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Hubbard?
Bruce, okay.
And it appears there's it's an intersection right there, isn't that right? Yeah.
Yes.
The water that comes down this from up here on this picture it comes right straight to that garage, right? That's where it'll end up.
That picture.
Yeah, so if the water will come down there, it'll hit the garage and divert down into that other property where the white car's parked there and down this other road.
Well,
Chairman Price and Commissioner Hubbard, and Member Hubbard, if I can just interject for clarity, if you could, staff has brought up a photo of what I think they think you're talking about, which picture you're talking about. If you can confirm that that's the picture you're talking about, that might help us for reference.
That's the one, yeah, where the water comes down.
Yes, that's Crum going off to the left, and my road is up the hill.
Is there any way that they've graded the roads or anything, the culverts or whatever, to get rid of the water?
We have tried. The city is not responsible. The county is not responsible for these roads. So we have a road department, a road crew that we work with through the homeowners association. And it's always a work in progress, depending on the heaviness of the rain.
So the garage and an approach apron wouldn't be to your liking, actually, right there?
Would be or would not?
Would not be.
No, As you look up the road to Wabba, that you can see the roof on another house. and the second left turn, I believe, is Airbnb.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Kennard? Thank you, Ms. Kennard. Anyone else here to speak on the speaker item? We had kind of a lingering issue whether to continue the item. I'll ask that. Is there any desire from the board to continue the matter or to go ahead and vote on it today?
Vote on it.
Okay, I hear vote on it, hit in the left ear. Okay. Does any commissioner have any further questions or comments before we call for a motion? Okay, the chair will now entertain a call for a motion.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move that the variance request by applicants Michael and Lori McGee be denied on the basis that the Mojave County zoning ordinance does not allow our board to grant a variance unless, per item number 2, that we can show that a hardship would exist to the existing enjoyment of the property. They've been there for 4 to 5 years without a garage. I don't see how there's a hardship or how we're denying existing enjoyment of the current property.
Do we have a second on the motion?
I second it.
Any discussion on the motion itself? Hearing none, entertain ask for a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, vote aye. I said aye. Okay, and I'm going to actually, part of the record, abstain. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Yes, would like a motion to adjourn.
Your turn, Bruce.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second? Any discussion on the motion, which I can't imagine? All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you much.